Welcome everyone to the Snap Cuts in the New Congress webinar. My name is Reed and I'm TJC's digital media coordinator. I'll be moderating the call and we are joined today by our Senior Director of Nutrition Advocacy, Signe Anderson. So we will go ahead and get started. For starters, this webinar will be recorded, so we will send a recording and the slides to all registered participants by January 10th. The information will also be accessible on our website. We'll make sure to let you know about that. And the last 15 minutes of this webinar will be a Q&A. So we'll go ahead and get started this morning by, where's my mouse? By introducing yourself in the chat. So you can go ahead and put your name, organization, and county in the chat. A quick disclaimer. The Tennessee Justice Center is a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization that is nonpartisan and non-political. The clients we serve and the partners with whom we work represent the state's diversity of political affiliation. Our political analyses relate solely to the defense of health and nutrition programs and do not imply endorsement or disapproval of any party or person. So, our agenda, we will talk about a recap of the plan cuts to SNAP and the impact on Tennessee. And then Signe will also be sharing the latest intel with or regarding the congressional developments. And then we'll have the last 15 minutes dedicated to a Q&A. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Signe.
Thanks, Reed. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I will get started just with giving you some basic information about SNAP. I think it's always important just to ground everyone in some of the basic facts and information about the program and really help people to understand the value of SNAP for families across Tennessee. It is the most effective anti-hunger program in the United States and in our state of Tennessee. In 2024, it fed 750,000 Tennesseans on an average month. And just to give folks a sense of who participates in SNAP, of households that participate in SNAP, 71% are households with children, 35% are households with seniors or individuals with disabilities. 37% of people who participate in SNAP are working Tennesseans. And another factor that I think is also important to lift up is the benefit is modest. Supplemental means it's not intended to be the sole source for people to find food in a month, but oftentimes we do work with individuals where it is their sole benefit amount, or it's their sole source of money to buy food. And so with that in mind, individuals get about $6 a day on average to be able to afford food through the SNAP program. The minimum amount of SNAP benefits that some households receive is just $23 a month. And on average, it's about $82 a month that folks usually get in Tennessee to participate to afford food in Tennessee. And then just to give you a sense of what the monthly amount of benefits that come into the state are, it's in November 2024, it was $143 million that were distributed to Tennessee households. So that just gives you a little bit of background about the SNAP program. And I'm going to go into more of a deep dive on what we're here to talk about today. So go ahead, Reed, to the next slide. Thanks. So as I mentioned in the previous webinar that we did, we're really working hard to protect SNAP, and we are concerned about the targets that are likely to happen and to be the targets in the next Trump administration. When we last talked, SNAP replacement benefits was one of those issues that we were looking at in the budget reconciliation agreement. And I have some unfortunate news that I'll talk about in the upcoming slides, but that is funding specifically for assisting households whose benefits are stolen by organized criminal rings through a process called skimming. And I'll give you an update there. The other three areas that we're going to talk a little bit more about today, where we are likely to see cuts that the Trump administration plans to use to afford their agenda and their larger tax cuts, are working Tennesseans, which is encompassed in work requirements and limiting SNAP for underemployed people. The other piece is adequate benefit amounts. We are likely to see the Trump administration go after the benefit amount that people receive through something known as the Thrifty Food Plan, which is a very very scientific look at what the right amount of benefits are. And then finally, we are likely to see harm to immigrant families, and I'll go into that more in the upcoming slides. So in the last time we talked, it was right around the time that Congress was deciding their fiscal budget for the end of the fiscal year, and it had already been kicked down the road to December. And when we talked, we were fairly certain that skimming benefits and families would be protected with funding to help those who fall victim to skimming theft. Unfortunately, there was a major cut to that in the final budget agreement, which was really unexpected and really harmful to families across the United States, but Tennesseans in particular. The things that did come out of the end of the year spending package, there was a short-term agreement to extending the Farm Bill, and the other major plus around the spending package is that a government shutdown was avoided, so that was good. But the major cut to SNAP victims of skimming was something that we were hoping would not happen. And in initial conversations, there was money in the budget to help support those families. And just to give you a sense of the background of this and what it means for Tennesseans and what had been done through Congress as of 2022, Congress had passed a rule to reimburse SNAP households that are targeted by criminal rings. And this is done through a process called skimming, which is a type of electronic theft where individuals place illegal devices on card swiping machines or ATMs, point of sales, where people will use their SNAP benefit card or look at their benefit amount. And the minute that they swipe the card, these criminal rings are able to take their information and clean their benefits off of their cards. So also they have nothing to spend for the month. And there have been 11,000 Tennessee households that have been impacted by this and have had their benefits stolen. And up until December 20th, there was a system in place where families could submit claims to be reimbursed for these stolen benefits. That has been taken away because of the budget reconciliation. Even before the new administration is in office, they've weighed in, and because they weighed in on this, that was one of the things that was cut from the final budget agreement at the end of the year. And we can go to the next slide. And just to give you a sense of who it impacts, I mean, it impacts anyone in the state who happens to be at a store or an ATM where the machines have been compromised. And we have worked with a couple of houseless individuals who didn't even realize that they had been skimmed. They thought there was a mistake or that they'd been cut from the SNAP program for reasons they weren't sure of, because they don't have regular internet access and couldn't get into their account to see what happened. But we helped them to identify that they'd been victims of this skimming theft. One of the individuals that we worked with had lost 2 months of benefits, but because this reimbursement system was in place, we were able to help them get those 2 months of benefits put back on their card. Another Tennessee mom that we know of had gone to use her card and had $760 just taken immediately from her card, and the benefits were used in another state, which is often what happens is the benefits are swiped completely off the card, and on the backside, DHS can see or the card the card readers can see that it's been spent in another state. And there has been over 1.8 million in SNAP benefits that have been reimbursed to Tennessee families because of this crime. And it has spiked in the last couple of years. And there hasn't been measures put in place to protect families. One of the reasons why SNAP families are at higher risk is because the SNAP card has a strip feature on it. It doesn't have a card chip reader like many of us have on our credit cards. And because the technology is behind in SNAP cards, it's easier for SNAP participants to be targeted. And unfortunately, as of December 20th, there's nothing in place to protect them. So we'll go into more detail in the next slide about what can be done about this and what we think should be done. So we can just move to the next slide on this issue. Here are the next steps on protecting families. We really want folks to urge the Trump administration to work with Congress to reverse this misstep, continue to reimburse families whose food benefits are stolen to no fault of their own. The other thing that we are lifting up on our end, DHS is doing this. Right now, the only thing that families can do is take measures to protect their own card since there isn't a system in place to make the cards stronger, for lack of a better term. But we're really trying to share info with current SNAP recipients about how to either shut down their card so that it can't be used, or to change their password. And so that's really the only measure right now that they can do to protect themselves. The other thing that we want folks to do is to urge Congress to protect families in the upcoming budget reconciliation, make sure that they understand that this is something that needs to be fixed. And in the interim, there are a handful of states that have put money into their budgets to reimburse families who have been skimmed. And so we think it's important to urge Governor Lee to put forward state legislation to protect SNAP cards and reimburse Tennessee families until the federal government does something to fix this. So that's the major update from the last time we talked. Sadly, I was hoping we wouldn't have this conversation of benefits already being cut in this way, but here we are. And so these are some of the actions that we can take. And we can move to the next slide. So the other thing that I lifted up was work requirements. This was a target under the previous Trump administration, really trying to increase work requirement restrictions around SNAP. And just to give some folks basic background information on what the work requirement is, it is a SNAP time limit. It limits people ages 18 to 54 to just 3 months on SNAP if they're not meeting work requirements. And the work requirement is that an individual has to be working 20 hours a week. If they're a part of a job placement program, that also counts. If there's a volunteer work that they're doing, that also counts. But the Trump administration may target this rule to make it even harsher and more difficult for people to access SNAP. We've been trying to eliminate this work requirement completely because it doesn't align with how SNAP works and how poverty and underemployment works, it really works counterintuitive to us trying to help families find work. So and here are just a few bullets about why the SNAP work requirement doesn't work. It deprives people who are struggling to work of a basic need. If somebody's trying to find work, what we want to do is support them in any way that we can around the basic needs, especially providing food. And people who are eligible, even people who are eligible right now, are often denied. We have worked with several individuals who have clearly are eligible for SNAP, but because of being screened in the wrong way, they've been denied their SNAP benefits when they're meeting the work requirement and they're doing what they're supposed to do in order to be eligible. This is also an immense administrative burden. This is a very costly rule to have in place. It requires state to be monitoring and regulating that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing in order to receive the SNAP benefit. It also requires training. And so really, if the upcoming administration is focused on uh, making things more streamlined and work better, getting rid of the work requirement would be the smart way to go. It does not encourage work. It prevents people from participating in SNAP. There is research out there that shows that the SNAP benefit helps to lift people out of poverty. There's no research out there that shows that putting a work requirement in place helps to increase employment. In fact, it often does has the counter effect. We can go to the next slide. I wanted to give folks a little more appreciation and understanding of the impact of the work requirement on Tennesseans. As I mentioned at the very beginning, 37% of folks who participate in SNAP are working Tennesseans. Folks who are working do work, and if they're not, there's usually a reason why they're not. Either they have a disability or they don't have a car in order to get to work. We work with a lot of homeless individuals that are now covered under a waiver and should not be subjected to a work requirement, but again, sometimes this doesn't get conveyed to caseworkers, and so people often fall through the cracks. And just to give you a sense of the working Tennesseans who participate in SNAP, 98,000, over 98,000 workers are service workers. They're the cooks, they're home health care providers. Nearly 40,000 are manufacturing workers. Nearly 40,000 are in customer service. There are nearly 38,000 who are laborers, drivers, your Uber driver, your Lyft driver, your taxi driver. So this gives you a sense of who the working Tennesseans are who are connected to SNAP, but it also gives you a sense of who might fall through the cracks. For anyone who's ever worked a customer service job or in the service industry, you will know that hours are not always secure or written in stone. Oftentimes, employers are trying to make sure that employees work under a certain hour, so they're not required to pay for benefits. If an individual is sick, there's often not sick time worked into these jobs to allow them and afford them the time to take off. So people either have to show up to work sick or they have to take the time off. And if you take too much time off in some of these service industry type jobs, you lose your job. And so that all kind of feeds into why this is really complicates SNAP participation. If you're not meeting your work hours, then you're likely to lose your SNAP benefits, which is really something we don't want people to have to be subjected to. And so by strengthening these work requirements, the Trump administration is reaching their goal of making it harder for people to participate in the SNAP program. it will kick people off the program, and it will kick people off the program who desperately need benefits to feed themselves in order to be able to work. So that's another area that we're really concerned about in the as the upcoming administration comes into office. And then the next point that I wanted to bring up as a major threat, that again was a threat at the end of the last Trump administration, were cuts to the SNAP benefit amount. Um, there was an effort to reduce the SNAP dollars to families in the last administration, in the last Trump administration. They are proposing 30 billion in cuts to SNAP benefits over the next 10 years. And just to reiterate to folks, on average, the SNAP benefit is approximately $6 a day. That's the average amount that an eligible individual receives. $23 a month is the lowest benefit. Not everybody who signs up for SNAP gets the full benefit amount. We will often work with individuals who are just getting the $23 a month. And up until about 2.5 years ago, when this went into place, the minimum amount of benefit was $19. So sometimes we were working with individuals who would get $19 a month, and that was their SNAP benefit for the month, which is not enough. I think clearly for folks on the phone and on the line to realize $19 a month is not enough to live off of. And so there is a range of benefit amounts that families receive, 23 being the lowest. The average amount is about $185 a month. So the Trump administration plans to peel back the benefit amount for families over the years. And by doing so, this will increase hunger. It will create barriers to eating healthy. It impacts health. When folks do not have the appropriate amount of money to spend on food, they reduce, they get unhealthy. They reduce their medicine adherence if they're families that need to take medicine, and it really will increase the economic burden to our families. And just for folks to get a sense of what it means on the economic side, SNAP dollars that come into the state are almost immediately spent in grocery stores across the state. There are over 6,400 grocers and food retail stores that take SNAP benefits. And for every dollar in SNAP that is spent, it generates about $1.15 economic activity. So if you are a SNAP recipient and you are going to buy your groceries, you are likely to buy other things at the grocery store, like toilet paper and things that are not covered by SNAP benefits. And so so that's what generates the additional money in economic activity. Not only do our families lose out, but the local economy loses out if we are not supporting families through the SNAP program. And then the final area that I want to lift up, because I know folks have heard this in the news, immigrant families are a major target for the Trump administration, and I bring this up because while most households are not eligible for SNAP without a green card and without waiting for 5 years, we still work with mixed status families who might have children that are U.S. citizens that are eligible to participate in SNAP. But there's a major push to villainize immigrant families who are the backbone of the working society here in Tennessee and across the country, and so they are likely to fall off the program as well. So families who might have been eligible, their children might have been eligible, will be reticent to participate. So this is another tactic that the administration is using to make sure that fewer people are participating in the program. Um, those who are currently eligible are refugees, asylees, and victims of trafficking, children who are born in the US, but for fear of public charge and the implications that participating in the safety net program would do for those individuals, we are likely to see people turn away their benefits and stop participating in other safety net programs such as WIC and school meals, which immigrant families are eligible to participate in. And for folks who work with immigrant families, join the Protecting Immigrant Families campaign. We were a part of this. Uh, we've been a part of this campaign since for a long time, and they do a lot of work to defend access to health and safety net programs for immigrant families. So I just wanted to lift that up as a cut that will happen to the SNAP program. There are a lot of ways that we can take action right now. Connecting with partners is really important. And I just want to stress uh, connecting with not the usual suspects. I think right now is a very important time to to talk to people across the aisle, both Democrat and Republican. It's really important that everybody weighs in. Hunger is a nonpartisan issue that we all can get behind. And so I think it's really important to lift up how it impacts our families and how SNAP is crucial to helping folks who are struggling with food insecurity and who are fighting to get out of poverty. It's really important to hear from impacted individuals. So we'll be lifting up stories from people that have participated in the SNAP program and how it has helped them and their families to be successful. Um, we will continue to share these stories. So reach out to us if you have a story or if you work with clients that have benefited from participating in the SNAP program. Now is not the time to be silent. Now more than ever, it's important to contact your legislators, even if you don't think that they agree with you. In fact, because they don't agree with you, you should raise your raise your voice. And um, another state partner who's done this work for some time had a conversation with a legislator that said, nobody reached out to me, so clearly it wasn't an issue. So we want to make sure that people know that this is an issue that impacts our families, and protecting SNAP is extremely important. So please reach out to your legislators if you need help reaching out to your legislators on messaging or even going to visit. Contact me. We're happy to help with messaging and help with in-person visits. Whatever you need, we're happy to help get the message across that SNAP is necessary and needs to be protected. And since I have a captive audience, I wanted to bring up one other issue for folks who may have been following TJC and the work that we're doing. I wanted to talk just briefly about summer EBT. It is still possible for the state of Tennessee to participate in summer EBT in 2025, and there are 700,000 children, Tennessee children, who will be missing out if we do not participate. So please, if you're able to, urge Governor Lee, Commissioner Carter to send a letter to them about why summer EBT is so important. If you're able to do a letter to the editor, please do that. And we're happy to help you with that letter. Sharing stories about how summer EBT is helpful to families, I think, is really important. We've created a map, so check it out here. Join our group. We will continue to advocate for this. The final deadline for the state to submit their plan for participating in summer EBT is actually February 15th. They missed the January 1st deadline of being able to get some additional grant funding, $1.1 million in grant funding to help fund the summer EBT program. But it's not too late to sign on. So we want Governor Lee and Commissioner Carter to do the right thing and provide these benefits for families. And I'm happy to talk offline or in the Q&A section more about this and any of the other anticipated cuts that we see coming down the pike to our really important programs. All right. I think now is the time for Q&A. Reed, I have not been looking in the chat, so if there's anything, please let me know.
Yes, thank you so much, Signy. So if you have questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature. I just put instructions in the chat of how to look at that. But we did have a question earlier in the chat from Sandra Davis Bullis. Sandra asked how many college students receive SNAP, or if we have an idea of how many.
Oh, Sandra, that's a good question. I don't know that I don't have that data point off the top of my head, but we will look and we can respond back to you. That's another population that we would really like to see have better protections and rules in place because their bar to connecting to SNAP is much higher than the regular individual. In addition to going to school, students are also expected to meet work requirements, which we don't think should be in place. School is work, so that should count as their work requirement. And there are some other rules that actually went away during the pandemic. So we'd like to see those become more permanent, but we can look into that exact data point for you.
Awesome, thank you. We have a question from Andrew Hawkins asking, out of curiosity, if there is a record of how many SNAP benefits go unclaimed each month/year.
That yes, there is, and it might require a records request from DHS. But I will tell you that the majority of SNAP benefits are generally used quickly and right away. There's been a lot of general studies about SNAP benefits in use. Oftentimes we see families using up their benefits within the first part of the month because it's supplemental. It doesn't always help to get families across to the end of the month. But that's another thing that we can look into. These are very good questions.
And we want to be mindful of your time too. So there's not any other questions in the Q&A feature. So if you want to put those in. But while we wait, I'll go ahead and go over some remaining items here. So we do want to encourage you to please contact your legislatures to help protect Medicaid and SNAP. You can scan this QR code and it'll go directly to a form to fill out, and it will go directly to Senator Blackburn, Senator Haggerty, and other members of Congress. It bases it off of your zip code. So we take the work off of your plate where you don't have to look and find who your representative is. Oh, okay. I'll pause there because we did get another question. They're all rolling in right now. Someone asked, are they proposing any other solutions for families that have had their SNAP benefits stolen?
As of right now, no. There was some talk about taking measures to better protect cards and update the technology. Right now, SNAP families and SNAP cards are working off very old technology, but that costs money. So we need Congress to put money into that to help protect families. There are some states that have moved forward to protect their cards, Oklahoma being one of them, California. They have taken steps to update they're working to update their card system so that families are better protected.
We have a question from David Waters in the chat asking if Congress cuts 30 billion from SNAP, is there an estimate for how many of the 750,000 Tennesseans would lose SNAP benefits?
So the cut there is it's not necessarily people losing SNAP, it's people losing benefit amount. So it would impact every single Tennessean who participates in the SNAP program. So if you were getting the minimum benefit before of $23, if this legislation or if this proposal goes in place to roll back benefit amounts, it means you'll now be receiving $19. So it has implications for every single Tennessean, every single county. It means our families have to do more with less. And that's at a time when grocery prices are higher than they ever have been before. And inflation impacts all of our families, low income families more than anyone else. They feel that impact harder than anyone else. So it's not necessarily that people get kicked off the program with that particular cutback. It means everybody's impacted in that we're not giving you the SNAP dollars that you once relied on. We're taking a $10 cut to your SNAP benefits or more, depending on what you're eligible for.
We have a question here. I think also maybe Signy, you can discuss the updates to the SNAP income limits, because someone asked if you could share what the income limits are for receiving benefits, but I know if I remember correctly, those changed in October or September.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So you're eligible for SNAP if you are at 130% of the poverty line. So 130% of the poverty line for a family of four, that means you earn about $3,380 a month. So a little over a salary of $40,000 a year would make you, if you're a family of four, would make you eligible for SNAP. And if you are right at that eligibility level, if you're right at 130, then that's when you're likely to receive just the $23 a month or the minimum benefit amount. The farther you fall below the 130% of the federal poverty line, the higher your SNAP benefit is. For a very simplistic explanation of how that works.
We are still taking questions if y'all want to put those in the Q&A feature. We have a question that says, will the reduction in benefits affect each state in a similar way? Just to confirm, there is a proposed $30 billion cut nationwide with the SNAP benefits or just in Tennessee?
Yes, that is nationwide. That would impact everybody who participates in SNAP across the country. So Tennessee included.
And then another question, has TJC come up with responses or talking points for people that question the need for SNAP benefits?
Um, we do have some talking points. We definitely have some from the last round, and we can, if we don't have something posted right now, we will definitely have it posted very soon.
Yes, we have a fact sheet accessible on, I'll put it in the chat for everybody. It is a slide later on. But yes, we have a fact sheet that goes over talking points. We encourage you to please share that from the rooftops on your personal social media if you feel inclined to do so at the dinner table with friends, family. So yes, and there's also a budget analysis regarding Medicaid cuts, and I believe we are in the process of creating something similar for SNAP, but we will send all of this out to you all. We'll take one more question just to be mindful of everybody's time.
Reed, sorry, real quick before you move on from that, on the fact sheet piece, for folks who might work with a particular population, or if you needed talking points tailored to a specific group, or um, a certain legislators' constituents, let us know because we're happy to work with you on that. There are every single county in Tennessee is impacted by hunger. Every single county has people who participate in SNAP. And I think it's really important to understand that SNAP participants are our neighbors. They're the people that check out our groceries, or, our people who serve us when we go to the restaurants, or, people that we work with every day, that we see, and, that we are in our everyday lives, are people who participate in SNAP, and it's really important to protect the program for those individuals.
Absolutely. And just to follow up on that, we are actively working on a toolkit that will also contain responses for you to email your legislators, contact them on your own, to post on social media. So we will compile that information and send that out as soon as that is available. But we are actively creating that. So we will take one last question. This question is asking, is there a plan to replace the SNAP program, or are they just planning to cut it entirely and not implement any other programs?
Yeah, no, there's there's no plan to cut it or no, obliterate it completely. I think the plan is to do damage in other ways. We're working off of what happened during the previous Trump administration. We're working off some of the 2025 plan, and some of the information that has already been shared. We're working off the response to the budget agreement that happened in December, with uh, Musk and Ramaswamy weighing in on the budget. That those all give us information and guidance on how they're thinking about SNAP. So we need to be sure that they understand the implications and how it actually causes more harm uh, and more work for government officials and for people who are trying to access the program. I think there's a lot of misinformation amongst people in power and people who don't participate in the SNAP program. So it's our job, and we're looking to folks on the line as well to share what you know about the program. We're, like Reed said, we're working on a toolkit. We're happy to provide you with information about how the program actually works and why it's important to protect it.
Yes, absolutely. And to any unanswered questions, we will also include responses to those in our follow-up email that will also contain the recording and the slides for this webinar. And I put the link in the chat to our fact sheet. It's at tnjustice.org/join us. That will be the page that we will be updating constantly as information rolls out. So I put the link for you to contact your legislators. And then next we have an organization sign-on letter. So let me put the link in the chat as well. We encourage your organization to join us in solidarity to defend Medicaid and SNAP. This letter will be sent to all federal representatives and senators from Tennessee. And the deadline, we are asking for signatures by noon Central Time on Friday, January 24th. We will then be sending the letter the following Monday. So you do have to be an authorized person at your organization to complete this form. So there is that. And then our fact sheet, which is accessible at tnjustice.org/join us. And then also, again, please share your story with us. How that is supposed to say SNAP. My apologies. That will be corrected in the version that we send out to you. Share how SNAP has impacted you, or TennCare if you also have 10 care. So anyway, or if you work with families who are on SNAP or on 10 care. But we encourage you to share your personal story or encourage you to share this with your clients to share their story with us so that we can amplify those stories to our legislatures and across social media. Speaking of social media, please follow TJC. Here are our handles, and then we also have a page with all of our handles so that you can follow us with one click. And then Signy's email as well if you have any questions regarding the content of this. And then last but not least, we would really love to hear your feedback of how this webinar went. So please take 1 minute to complete our post-webinar survey. We would love to hear from you. We'll stay on for a few more minutes, but in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you found this helpful, and we hope you have a great rest of your day and your week. Thank you.